Welcome to the realm of Millenia, for I am your host here today, the Millennium Mailman. Be ye man, woman, child, spirit, creature, demon. Be ye a native migrator, yes, even an invader into the realm. I welcome you, for I'll be world building long after you've already begun to acclimate and fit in. So go ahead, sit back, relax, and enjoy this wacky idea concept Wednesday. All right, welcome. That being said, it is week 9, Devil's Advocate, and I'm just basically going over just a few of the most important parts of this conversation. There's a myriad of things to talk about when talking about psychopathy and the things associated with it, just for the layman getting in on the conversation. I chose to limit it down to mainly 2-3 different talking points here to keep the video nice and short, right? But yes, hot take week number 9. Psychopaths and schizophrenics aren't dumb nor slow. They're inherently probably some of the smartest, biggest brain individuals you could possibly find. They just compartmentalize a bit too well, if you will. Right? That is the whole discussion that was posted, but the real thing is, what if, right? It's not me in any capacity saying that they genuinely are, but posing the question, what if psychopaths and schizophrenics aren't actually dumb and slow, like, or terrible, like normal rhetoric tends to make them make you believe that they are. What if, and hear me out, it is a hot take, what if they're inherently just the biggest brain individuals you could ever find on the face of the globe? They're just too fixated on this compartmentalization to an insanely well degree, right? Because part of that conversation in and of itself is the fact that the mind, which people didn't put too much emphasis on until the father of psychology came around, you know the guy, Sigmund Freud, until he came around and really started to develop the whole industry of psychology and psychiatric evaluation and then treatments and testing that came after his development in a more systematic and scientific manner. Until then, the concept and understanding of the mind was really stagnant, right? So from this psychology perspective, be you on the side of psychopathy and so on and so forth, it is really important to recognize that the mind itself is rather more so a mixed bag of complexity needing constant balance of up, down, left, right, forward, and back, right? For anyone to function better than a vegetable, the mind and body are jointly trying to keep a sense of balance. Otherwise, you experience something along the lines of vertigo. Otherwise, you get hormonal imbalances, which feel terrible. And past feeling terrible have that many more negative side effects and consequences for having the imbalance, right? So psychology and psychopathy, and another form of choosing to say this, would just be a pretty big imbalance of this mathematical equation called mental stability, which people develop therapy to cure the mental therapy and therapeutic treatments as a whole to be more so, hey, we have to cure the disease of mental instability. And that's where the idea of therapist really skyrocketed. After the profession was popularized, it skyrocketed because, oh my, it truly is a disease. The disease of the mind, right? But I am beginning to digress, but yes, the mind is a mixed bag of complexity that needs constant balancing. Same thing with the mind and body, same thing with just your body. You need to have a balanced diet. In order to keep it, you need to, with your body, have a balanced system, immune system, to performance ratio, whatever you're doing. Don't overdo it, but don't do nothing. Otherwise, your figure and your body maintenance will get out of line and get out of whack. Same thing with the mind. And you can think of schizophrenia and certain psychopathies as just a further example of consequences to particular, if not regular, imbalance in mindsets not being maintained and properly conducted with, right? Because these people who tend to give off this psychopathic and schizophrenic traits, if we actually boil it down to the core, there are many of them happen to be extremely smart. They're rather very much genius and ingenious to so many elevated levels, like Dahmer, like Dexter, like the Hannibal, like name your pick of all the serial killers and schizophrenics, well-known schizophrenics throughout the history of reality, right? There are exceptional number of people you could choose from to base this conversation around. Now that you have one in mind, listen from the lens. These guys are exceptionally smart, right? But they are too smart for their own good, essentially. And thus, it makes finding and understanding and being able to maintain their moral compasses, their moral boundaries, and certain moral or ethical decisions on choices to be made and things to be followed up and acted upon, rather harder to not overlook, and thus by extension certain social functionalities and cohesion, it makes that harder, right? For more or less, because where they would deem certain social functionalities more as in overly or less as in very much understated and underrated on the level of importance and prioritizations to them, right? Where I believe it was in the Dexter series, the TV series, where they have a very good depiction of the dichotomy between Dexter and the main villains, two who are more so antagonists to him in his little TV series, where Dexter acknowledges that he's terrible at socialization and that there are certain other equal serial killers that have no problem socializing but have problems in other places that drew them to be the way they are, despite how capable, competent, and socially functioning they seem to appear to be on the outside. The same way he appears to be fine on the outside, despite overall being a very bad person, right? Many psychopaths and schizophrenics, plenty of them are extremely smart people. We don't often hear about or know about any psychopaths or schizophrenics that don't know anything, right? We often hear about psychopaths and schizophrenics that tend to not understand the severity of things, because to most psychopaths and schizophrenics, or whatever criminal mind you have on your mind, right, they tend to compartmentalize in a certain vein without the availability to interact. And a prime example I have for that is, and trying to describe it anyway, would be, think of a proper mental balance as a good little mansion, a personal mansion, penthouse, whatever you want to make it, right? Whatever it is outside of a flat, whatever home, residence, building you so choose or desire, make it a skyscraper, if you will. Everyone in their mind has many compartments. There's a segment of the brain that deals with emotion, a segment for logic, there's a segment of the brain for pain, sensations, and your five senses, and there's a section of your brain that stimulates the hormonal responses and initiations, your growth and bodily development, and there's a portion of the brain that regulates the limitations and your comprehension of how limitations work, right? Every part of your mind is like the different rooms in a house, right? Every part in your mind is like a different room in a house. When you have a big enough house, you tend to designate rooms for this and designate rooms for that. Vice, when people have smaller houses and they're functioning within their means, they figure out how to make the space, they focus more so on making the space functional, right? Rather than making it explicitly pretty all around. And then vice versa, when you have an extremely large house, you may tend to still be practical, make every room practical, but you have the opportunity and leverage to make everything look pretty, right? So the way I like to distinguish normal people from this conversation about how psychopaths could very much just be the smartest people who overly compartmentalize against their own better outcomes, is the fact that yes, everyone has a house, everyone has a building, great. Smarter people, let's just say they have bigger buildings and more assets to fill up those buildings with, right? Seeing how we have schizophrenics and psychopaths in the conversation, think of it as schizophrenics and psychopaths tend to have an exceptional amount of things. They're basically hoarders, right? It's like, I have great things. I'm learning, I have great retention, and nothing's leaving this steel trap of a mind I have. Nothing's leaving the doors nothing's leaving the house after I get it in here. It's going to be awesome and amazing because I have a place for that. Oh yeah, extra couch? I already have enough couches, but it's still going here. I have a room for couches. It's all going there. Oh, we have more paint buckets? What color paint is it? It's got its own room over here. So anytime So to certain degrees, people who hear voices, you can think of them as, well, not, this isn't an entirely educational video, right? But for the sake of this discussion and argument, if you think of schizophrenics as people who hear voices and see things that aren't really there, you could think of them as visual learners, or people who compartmentalize all the things they've seen and felt, and they chose to when they were packing up the extra things, that if anytime they go back into a memory, they're pulling up something because they feel there's some sort of trigger, right? A schizophrenic who's randomly giving in to their intrusive thoughts or talking about voices they hear, talk about certain evils or certain awesomes and righteousness that they are choosing to act on. You could also think of it, oh gosh dang it, man.
I was quiet, Cody, okay?
I knew I heard you.
I was trying not to interrupt your video. That's why I snuck past over here.
I don't care. You're just being weird.
I was trying not to sneak in your video.
I don't care about you sneaking in the video. I care about the back of my neck tingling like Spider-Man. It's like, why is I hear the garage moving. Anywho, but thinking like schizophrenic, yes, that's where I was. Schizophrenics, if you think of schizophrenics as people who compartmentalize the things they're feeling and seeing, and because of how well compartmentalized, if they do have things they try to access because of their good retention, in order to access those things, they have to walk in their mansion, in their house, to the room full of other things. So they're looking out of their eyes and thinking back. Now, as they're thinking back, they can't just let it be a thought. Their thought is bringing forward things they heard before but aren't hearing now. They're taking things they've seen before but aren't legitimately seeing now to the forefront and overlaying them to the reality that's currently present. So I've never seen a face like that before, but you've dreamed about it, and it's just now being overlaid. I don't think I've ever heard a voice like that before. They don't think they have because they don't remember it. They compartmentalized it, and now it's coming back to haunt them, quite literally. And then you have sociopaths, psychopaths, and the like, where they compartmentalized in such a manner that they can fully disassociate from that thing that allows them to have the label of psychopath or sociopath, because they compartmentalized all those things, and like a trapdoor, they may or may not even remember it's there or how to properly access it. They might be able to fake it with a certain level of understanding, but when it's a part of a person's character as a full-blown adult, once they get labeled psychopath or sociopath, it's extremely hard in order to re-indoctrinate them out of that line of behavior because it's already a part of them. They are the psychopath, they are the sociopath, and you have to effectively re-educate and retrain and beat down those walls and get rid of those things. But again, if you think of these categories of people as hoarders, it's extremely hard to break down those barriers, knock down those walls, and take the things that they put away the way they want it. It's like, I don't know what's in that room, but I swear to Jesus, if you take my things, there will be an aggressive fight back and push back, because what are you doing? Right? So yes, it is a part of the conversation that psychopaths and what if psychopaths and schizophrenic, sociopaths and so on and so forth, what if they are actually the biggest brain individuals, but they're just too smart for their own good? Because again, part of this conversation is that they're just overly or extremely underrating the level of prioritization that everyone else socially would consider to be acceptable and normal, right? And in there, talking about the balance conversation is when what you're capable of is less than what you're competent for, gets people labeled insane, right? When what you're capable of is less than what you're competently aware of, you get granted the label of they're very much insane. And an example of that would be the fact that in order to be socially accepted, a number of things in the real world must be addressed and acknowledged as, yeah, that's cool, that's understandable, that makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, we're all scared of it and we all fear it and we don't like it and we will not accept it no matter what reason you possibly come up with. Until it makes sense and we can all agree that it is good and okay, cool, right? But so long as no one agrees with you, no one can understand what you're talking about, you are insane. Matter of fact, you're criminally insane because everyone agrees that that is not right and not okay, and you are still trying to push for it. He's a witch! It's a witch! Burn at the stake, right? It's insane. If what you're capable of is less than what you're competent to, you get branded insane. If what you're capable of articulating versus what you actually understand and know, you're insane. If what you're capable of doing and proving is less than what you understand, believe, and comprehensively recognize to be proper, right, or anything, you're insane, because regardless of whether or not you're right, you're wrong, or indifferent, and just like wrong, all that's correct and everything, you're insane. Because without anything to back it up, it's incredibly hard in order to convince anyone of anything, which is why it's always great when you have opposites, right, to balance this out. It's great for that balance. Because again, any and everyone, the mind is a mixed bag that needs this balance. Competence and capability, especially for this discussion of psychopath, sociopath, and schizophrenics, and so on and so forth. The mind needs balance. And so long as what you're competent about, regardless of whether or not you're sharing it to people, especially though when you are sharing it to people, if no one else is capable of understanding and articulating what you're talking about, once you share it to people, it is you who is insane. So people who have a number of disorders and a number of problems, back in the good old days before medical education was world renowned and shared at all levels across all the world, if you got a simple common cold, you got trench foot, if you got a simple common cold, you just die. If you got dysentery trying to travel across the center of the continent, you just up and die. We don't got no solution for it. You got trench foot, you got gout, it looks like the plague is gonna catch you. I mean, we could try cutting your leg off, but you'll probably bleed out before anything happens. Because what we were capable of back then versus what we understood and were competent to resolve was insane. Because just think about it, the first person to recommend, that looks pretty bad, cut his foot off. What is cutting my foot off gonna do? What are you talking about? It's bleeding. We just need to stop the bleeding. What do you mean I gotta cut it off? It's changing colors now. We gotta do something, right? It's like you had the right line and competence and mindset, but what you're capable of and what you're able to prove it works and everything is not matching. You must be insane to think that I would follow what you're saying with how crazy it's sounding right now. You need to make it sound less crazy, or you are the crazy one, right? There is that very real aspect to it. When your capability is less than your competence, the label of insane is prevalent. When someone's competence is less than what they're capable of, that kind of person is always someone's favorite smooth operator. When your competence is less than your capability, you are someone's favorite smooth operator. Because I'm a smooth operator, right? You are someone's favorite workhorse. You're someone's go-to person. You are the wise guy, the old man with all the wisdom. You are the sage. You are the mightiest. You are the specialist. Yes, you are a specialist. When your competence is a little, maybe a little or even a lot less than what you're capable of, I don't know how to say it, but I can do this for you. I'm not sure about any and everything, but I do understand yada 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 yada, and I can show you and help you understand it better with the most layman of terminologies. I am plenty capable of doing much any and everything, and I am capable of teaching anyone and anyhow, by any means. I can do it. I am plenty capable. Although I am not the smartest guy in the room, I am definitely the most capable person in the room. That you are the favorite smooth operator. You are a specialist, and specialists never go out of style. So what you're capable of will always tend to overshadow what you're competent in understanding, unless you're trying to be like a CAO or something. But even then, depending on what you're capable of, your specialization as being the most competent person doesn't really matter. All right? Like, I'm not sure which company it was, but it might have been. Who's Apple? Is that's Steve Jobs, right? Apple. Steve Jobs, even in his own personal movie, he was capable of doing a lot of things, but he quite literally could not make this Apple iPhone by himself. He became the CEO and had hired plenty of competent and capable people. He hired other capable people to effectively put make each individual part of the iPhone and then put it together. He was the capable person who was able to bring all those things together to make the iPhone that everyone knows and loves and continually advances upon as technology and tactics and skills develop. He was the capable person. He was competent and he was capable of doing what was needed. He wasn't capable of doing all of it on his own, but he was competent enough to recognize those who were capable, and then capable of actually bringing all those things together in the timely manner that he needed to. All right? So the most capable person of yada, yada, yada wasn't the one who made the iPhone, but he was the most capable in accordance to his competence level in order to get it done. Just do it, if you will. Right? And then those that have a competence level equal to their capabilities tend to be the most reliable of the specialists and tend to be those leaders that everyone wants. Everyone wants someone who is level in their competence and capability. Everyone wants the person to lead them who is both knowledgeable and capable. Someone who recognizes their limits and can follow through with understanding and pushing and helping and motivating people, right? So when you're thinking about managers and so on and so forth, that is the whole conversation there. Who do you want in this position? Someone who's competent and capable. Because where others fail, that person is going to need to be capable of picking up the slack. Where this thing is going wrong, you want someone who's competent enough to be able to troubleshoot and fix the problem. Key. And fix the problem. Pause. So many interruptions. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let this be part one, and I'm gonna finish off it on Funny Guy Friday, or maybe Theatrical Thursday, whichever one I feel like. Whether I'm gonna do the rest of it. But yes, essential thing. What if psychopaths and schizophrenics aren't dumb or slow? They're inherently the smartest, biggest IQ people you could possibly run into and find. They probably just compartmentalize a bit too much for their own goods. I hate you guys. I love you. I love you. Right. But hey, that's just me, your Millenia Mailman. I almost said be man, woman, child again. Hey, that's just me. Hope you enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe. Or don't. Continue it in the next video. Peace.